Who's that person that you wonder if they still think about you? What's your story with them? I knew a kid in elementary school who had really bad anger problems. He went to anger management classes and the other kids bullied him for it. But he was always nice to me and we had some things in common, so we hung out a bit at school. Shortly after getting to know him, my dad was transferred across the country. He's Navy. Before I left, he invited me over to his house and gave me a cake that he baked and a necklace with a ring on it that said best friends. We had only spent a bit of time together, but his mum told me I had a big impact on him. I still have the necklace and think about him sometimes. And I wonder if he thinks about me. We were little and he doesn't have a keepsake from me. I hope he's doing well. So, I've never actually met this person. I'm 28 now, and when I was 13-15 or so I had this feather pillow. I had it for a while. Probably about 2 or more years. And one night when I was trying to lay down and while smashing it into a comfy shape, I heard a crinkling. I didn't think much of it. Figured it was a label or something and laid down. This pillow kept ducking crinkling. I took off the pillowcase to see if some bit of plastic was in there or something, but I didn't find anything. Laid back down without the case on and every slight movement produced a mosquito in your room annoyance level crinkle. Picked up the pillow and started poking and prodding and smashing and squishing it, trying to reproduce this crinkle. I finally did, and then I found that it felt like there was something in the pillow, like a wrapper or something in my pillow. So I cut it open and dug through the feathers to find a ducking instant noodle wrapper from China. I like to think that some ducking Chinese dude worked at a pillow factory and decided to put a bit of garbage into a pillow to have a laugh with his workmates. I'd also like to think that it was a one-time thing, and that I won one of the most pointless lotteries ever, like some sort of itty message in a bottle. But there's no denying that this random China guy and me are connected, and sometimes I wonder what they're like and how their life has been thus far. Maybe they're dead. Maybe they got a better job. Maybe they're an expat in some country. Maybe I've passed them on the street. It's fun to wonder. I'm sure that if we met, we'd accomplish great things together. Point is that I think about that methodica a few times a year, and when I do I wonder if he thinks about me too. Or if I, the person on the opposite end of his joke, on the opposite end of the globe, I'm just as discarded as the wrapper from his lunch. I am almost 50 years old. My wife left me 4 years ago. My son lives an 8-hour drive away. I am an old middle-aged, lonely, bitter man. I wonder if anyone ever thinks about me, ever. I was a cashier at a grocery store when I was 16. One day these two little boys, one was about 9 and the other was about 4, 5, came in and tried to buy a few cans of chili. They didn't have enough money for them, and they got really embarrassed and left. I tried to tell them I would just buy the chili for them, but they dashed out. I kept their cans at my till in case they came back, but they never did. I think about those kids all the time. They were so sweet and respectful and cute and seemed excited about their purchase, and then got so upset when they didn't have enough. It broke my heart at 16 and still makes me sad now. I hope wherever they are they're okay and happy. A guy I dated for about 3 months in college. We were from the same area but went to school 7 hours apart. We always had these really deep, interesting conversations and spoke on the phone every night. We knew each other inside and out, and just meshed together so perfectly. Then one day he decided he couldn't do long distance, and that was that. He said he wanted to still be friends and keep in touch. So when I knew we were both back home for the summer, I reached out to him, but he told me he was seeing someone else. That broke my heart. I think about him every once in a while, and I always wonder if he does too. Edit. I just wanted to let you all know that I'm okay. Reading through the comments, I feel like I inadvertently gave off the impression that I sit around all day mourning a lost relationship, but that's totally not the case. It's been over 2 years. I've moved on and I've dated other people. I just think about him from time to time because he was the first person I'd ever had that type of connection with. I truly appreciate everybody's concern, but I'm doing fine, I promise. This boy in my 8th grade algebra class saw that I got a 38% on a test. ABD, he got a 98% and offered his help in the sweetest way. He told me he got a 0 on a test once and his dad had worked with him. He got the hang of it and now he's really good at. A 13-year-old boy was better at teaching me math than my math teacher. who seemed to get kind of peeved about him helping me. When we graduated, we went to different high schools and he gave me his watch and told me he just didn't want me to forget him. I didn't. Edit. Not a romantic thing. We did stay in touch for a little bit then just drifted. Maybe I was too young to see a crush being had. But it's really irrelevant since the memory revolves around the fact that I suck at math, and in a moment of feeling at he extended more compassion than most adults in my life combined ever have when it comes to my challenges with math. It sucks to just not get something no matter how hard you try. She was my best friend. My childhood friend. When she left to a country across the world when we were both around 10, she gave me her email address. I emailed her at least 10 different times but she never replied. 6 years later, this year, I heard she's on Instagram. I made an Instagram account for the sole purpose of contacting her. I followed her and she accepted my request, and it's wonderful to see she's having an amazing time. She's popular. She's beautiful. She's surrounded by friends. I tried direct messaging her and she never replied. I waited a few months and tried again. But still no reply. It's kind of stupid but it really hurts, so I deleted my Instagram account and now I try not to think about her. Edit. Thank you to everyone who replied sharing similar experiences and condolences. I'm sorry that you lost touch with your friends as well. Hope you feel okay. Also, because someone asked, I'm a girl. Let's call him Jordan, because that's his name. His mum passed away when he was young. I think it was cancer. I went to school with him. I started running when I decided to cut out some negative habits from my life. And shortly after, I asked Jordan if he wanted to come running with me. We'd go run laps together after school at a track and talk about the episode of My Name is Earl that we just watched and what life lessons we learned from it. I want to say we also talked about the idea from the show that Earl's trying to make the world a better place. I'm sure any runner knows what an amazing experience it is. We ran through the whole winter. We were able to increase our endurance a lot more. And we eventually started running around streets all over the neighborhood. Had a lot of really great talks. We never missed a single day. Haven't seen him in a few years. Hoping all is well with you, friend. Wishing you all the best. You're a real strong guy. I could list a few former loves and a ton of friends I've drifted with, but the biggest one is probably the NICU nurse who was there for a whole day with my son before he passed. She was so kind to us, me, my husband and my son, when there was nothing left they could do for him and we took him off of all the support he was on and he passed. She gave us time alone, but when we were ready to go I saw she had been crying too. She hugged me and told me that I was a good mom. So far he is my only child and she is one of a handful of people who has called me a mom. On the worst day of our lives she just was so kind. Thank you, Ashley Ao. My childhood pen pal. I was around 8. She was in her late 40s. My parents at the time worked at a magazine as a reporter and photographer power couple, going around the country to take interviews and take photographs of all sort of cultural, art events and people. Sometimes they would take me along, just because it was easier. So one summer we visited this awesome lady, who was living in an old house, in the woods, pretty much in the middle of nowhere, alone with 2 cats called Smilga and Molis, and a huge dog. She was a sculptor who made wooden angel sculptures. I remember honestly thinking that she was a real life witch. So while my mom was talking to her for the article and dad was busy photographing her sculptures, I was playing with her cats and walking around the property looking at stuff. She had this workshop in the middle of her home, full of various tools and half-finished sculptures and wood chips. The garden was literally full of bigger sculptures and a herbal garden and the huge silent dog tied to the tree and everything in the middle of the freaking forest. There was a village few kilometers away, which she was technically a part of, but for me as a kid it seemed like middle of nowhere. Basically it left a huge impression on me, like I was so freaking impressed by this witch who chosen to live alone and do what she likes. And it helped that her sculptures were cool and she was a woman, and I wanted to be an artist myself. So after the visit was over she gave me a gift of this tiny little angel made out of oak. It can fit into the palm of my hand, even when I was a kid. That's how small it was. And I remember her saying making something so delicate out of hard oak wood was the job. So we leave. and for the next few weeks I am obsessed with her. I keep talking to my mom about this witch lady and how intriguing she was. So my mom suggested I write her a letter, and so I do, with mom's help, telling her how awesome and inspiring she was and all sort of random things a child would write, and she actually answered. So we became pen pals for about a year or so. It was awesome. I don't remember why I stopped. Probably just eventually got distracted by other things. But I still have the tiny little oak angel that has been with me ever since, usually hanging about my computer throughout countless moves and apartments. So I still think of her from time to time. But I'm so curious, does she even remember me? Edit. Here are the links to the little angel she gifted me all those years ago. Edit 2. Solved. Huge thanks to Lickov Tiger for providing this link. Found her. Thanks Reddit. You did it again. Thanks for all the encouragement to find this witch lady again and reach out to her. We'll keep you all updated. Edit 3. Wow. Thank you for the gold, kind stranger. As a Target cashier I greeted someone with "Here's your receipt." I wonder if that customer thinks about it as much as I do. A guy from high school who was for all intents and purposes my best friend. Things happened in my 11th year and I left that school and moved interstate, so we didn't talk as much. By the time I moved back closer we'd only talk maybe 4 times a year despite living close-ish. I later moved away again, so pretty much all contact stopped. We've added each other on Steam but neither of us messages each other anymore. Even though I can talk to him right now, I never do. We're strangers now and every few months I think about him and if I should message him, and I wonder how much he's changed. I do wonder if he ever thinks about messaging me. My friends. Sometimes they just don't interact with me except if I do it first. They are wonderful people, and it's partially my fault for isolating myself so much. But hey, it would be nice if you folks could send a text my way or something. Edit. Thank you so much for the kind replies. I didn't expect this to blow up like this, although it's sad that it happens to others. Does it mean I was in love with him if I keep hoping to see him posting about me on here? When I was a teenager, let me speak to your manager looking woman almost turned me into a hood ornament. We exchanged harsh words for a solid 45 seconds and then she drove off in anger. I need a bottle for that one. This is an open message to all the people whose friends never hit them up unless they reach out to them. If any of you are in the Torrance, Long Beach, Cerritos, Southgate vicinity, it's a pretty large area. Hit me up for a beer sometime. Doesn't have to be a beer. Can be pool, a bite to eat, a concert, small or large venue. Could be an escape room or a hooker lounge. Just a day hike. Send me a message. I always like meeting new people. While a lot of us are happy having our alone time and unwinding, sometimes you just don't want to be at home alone on a free Saturday night. Seriously, send me a message. Edit. This is in Southern California in the States. Since some of you said I should mention the location, I live pretty close to the middle of the area I put. If you live a bit further away, someone mentioned Irvine. I'm more than down to try something out there, or somewhere in between. My birth mom, especially around my birthday. I was in line at the bathroom and asked some girl about the weather. She said that was it, chaff, so I told her to duck off. I don't see you making any effort. I'll always remember you, random bug girl. Edit. This is the first time I've got internet points and I have to say my D is diamonds. My first love. We dated for 2 weeks, then just on and off hookups over the next 10 years. He would cheat on so many girlfriends with me unbeknownst to me. I tried pressuring him to actually date me, but there was always an excuse and always a next girlfriend. Put up with it cause I was so in love with him. Didn't see what a piece of it he was and I had low self-esteem. Finally called it quits after a booty call and a breakdown when his pregnant girlfriend walked in on us. I didn't know about her. He's married now. I have a feeling it was totally one-sided. Like I was so broken up about not being with him, but I wonder if he ever thinks about me. I tend to form strong attachments to people I care about, yet some of them seem to find it very easy to fade away whilst my strong attachment remains. I've always wondered how often I pop into the minds of these people. Oh no, you made me remember. Thanks, I hate it. I'm such a fool for reading a thread this long just to see if I read someone describing me or how we both met. It's been 9 months and I still expect a message from him would appear on my phone. This isn't exactly positive, but I accidentally wrapped $50 into a present box for the gift exchange at church. I have no idea who got it, but I wonder if they are out there wondering who sent it. My ex-fiance registered sign. She caught me doing drugs and quickly dumped me. I just wonder how she turned out, and think she like how I turned my life around. 7 years ago I was mid-mental breakdown a few days after a rather traumatic event happened to me. I never took the bus anywhere other than from my high school to home at the time. I went to the park to drink till it was pretty late, and when I went to go to the bus, I went the other way to a relatively empty train station. Other than me, there was only an old woman standing on the other side of the platform for a train heading the other way. I stood at the front end of the station waiting for the train to come through so I could throw myself in front of it. Just as the sign announcing the station changed to mark it's incoming, I guess the old lady was watching me and realized what I was doing. She pulled me back as I was stepping forward. She couldn't speak English, but she yelled at me anyway and started crying. She hugged me, then got on the next train heading the other way, and I left and went home. I always think about her. I am thankful every day for her, and I hope she's doing well. After closing the restaurant I work at, as I was about to leave I noticed an older conversion van in the front of the parking lot with 2 people who ended up being mother and son, mid-20s, arguing. So I walked up to them. He was mad and mom was threatening to call the cops and have him taken in because of his anger. What started this was the son flew in from CO to pick up the van to live and back in CO as a temp home due to the fire at the time near his actual home. But once he got there, mom changed her mind. They didn't have the best relationship, and apparently this is how they argued solved problems. Anyway, I told him I was going to the bar for a drink by myself and would go regardless if he came with or not, and I'd lend an ear if he wanted to chat rant. He did, and him and I hung out on the patio for a couple hours, ending up having a great time. He managed to get a hold of an old friend who came and picked him up to help him get back home. I can't remember the name of the park he lived near, but said there were massive, beautiful geodes, and once he got back on his feet again after the fires, he'd get a hold of me and send me one. I don't expect that to happen, but would be a cool AF gift with an interesting story attached. This was only a couple months ago, but I still wonder how everything worked out for him and hope he's doing good. He was down on his luck, but overall a cool, genuine dude. I thought she was the one. She had such soulful hazel eyes. We used to sit there smiling at each other, holding long, unspoken conversations through our locked gaze. Everything was going fantastic and I was falling in love with her. About 4 months in, we both got into a funk and one day just never texted the other one again. Both of us thought the other had broken up with them. A few years later, I looked her up and we had a chat. She was engaged to a guy, and that's when we both figured out that we both thought the other had dumped us. Got to love that random bit of disconnect that railroaded a relationship. We still talk for a minute every couple years when one of us randomly gets in touch and says hi. I don't know why we do this. Does it mean something? I don't know. Probably not. We were friends in high school. Afterwards, she asked me out. Shortly after, her abusive parents kicked her out and she moved in with my family. A year later we moved out together. 5 years later, she told me she didn't love me like she used to. A week later she told me it was because she'd met someone else over the internet. A month later she said she couldn't figure it out unless she met him. A day later she slept with him. A day later she called me crying because he made her miss a flight back and all she wanted was to come home. I drove to the airport an hour further away in the middle of the night even though I had work the next day. Didn't even have time to process her telling me she'd slept with him. A day later she slept with me for the last time. 2 months later she broke up with me. 3 months later she moved across the country to be with him. 4 months later and she's living on her own thousands of miles away from everyone she'd ever known. It still hurts to talk to her, but I still can't stop thinking of her as my best friend. I hope one day we're in each other's lives again, but I'm scared she'll have forgotten me and everything we once were to each other. I've never had therapy so it's not like I can confirm this, but I think a lot of my issues now stem from the fact that I was bullied pretty severely in elementary school. It was never physical. It almost escalated to that point a few times, but it never did. But definitely emotional. Those girls really did everything in their power to make me cry when I was already going through a divorce and some other stuff. They'd make up rumors or insult me where it hurt or just ignore me completely. I just kind of wonder if the lead bully still thinks about that. Like, does she regret it or think that what she did was wrong? Or is it like a yeah, that girl with the hair was gross and annoying thing? I really wish I could just forget about her entirely, but I can't. Does she have the same curse? I know he still doesn't think about me, but here's my long tale. Freshman year. He was wearing a suit during a business convention we were at. Dark hair, the most heart-melting black eyes, and my eyes first laid on him. I could feel my heart skip a beat. We were inseparable for the 3 days of the convention. We took long walks around the shut-off fountain in the icy February weather. Just talking. We started dating just after. It was a long distance, 2 hours apart. Both sides hesitated on the age, with him being 4 years older than myself. But we made it work, seeing each other every weekend. Prom was around the corner. I had been shopping for a dress. He was working late at his job to save up to treat me right. I had gotten him to quit stealing beers and start sobering up for college. He was going to a school an hour from me. He called me on his way home, like he always did. It was about 9, and he was running to the store to pick up some things for his mom. A drunk driver struck his car on the driver's side after running a red light. The noise it made haunts me. I remember his closed casket funeral. They buried him in his suit. I wonder if his mom knows I still have the rose that I refused to throw. I wonder if he knows, wherever he is, that he haunts my dreams. Thinking about how different my life would be if he was still alive. My ex sexually and emotionally abused me. I wonder if he even has the mental capacity to understand what he did wrong. That person is my bio dad. I'm 48. When I was a baby, I'm told he would get angry and tear up the house. No one talks much about this. My mom eventually left him and remarried when I was little. I kept a relationship with his parents, my grandparents. My stepdad eventually adopted me. Fast forward to a few years ago, I decided to seek out my bio dad and try and contact him. My grandparents have been dead since I was in high school, and I've yearned for a relationship with this person I've never really known but have heard of from my grandparents. So I find him online in another state and call him. His girlfriend answers the phone and conversations goes like this. Hi, is Mike there? Sure, hold on. This is Mike. Hi, this is web design Betty, your daughter. Less than click more than. He hangs up the phone. I call back because I'm shocked and can't believe that's how things have gone. Girlfriend answers again. Hi, this is web design Betty. I'm Mike's daughter. And she says, oh honey, he doesn't want to talk to you. I'm sorry. Goodbye. And hangs up. And that's the story of not talking to my bio dad and wondering if they still think about me. You know that song Father of Mine? I can totally relate to that. My daddy gave me name, and then he walked away. And now that I have children, I will never let them know what that feels like. Also, Mike is a ducking asshole. I was newly single and had to go to Italy for a doctor's appointment. Long story, but I had to take one in Italy in order to be allowed on a ship. The doctor was absolutely gorgeous and couldn't speak English, and we had all these giggles while she showed me these stretches and positions I needed to be in for the exam. We went out later that night and she showed me a great time around town, and I never saw her again. First serious girlfriend. I realized later in life that every other girl I dated was attractive to me merely because she resembled the first one in some way. I was basically chasing after something I could never have again. And those relationships always ended because they were never her. It wasn't until the 5th relationship collapsed that I realized the pattern I was following. Shortly thereafter, I met the woman who would become my wife, broke the pattern, and learned how to be happy. Still, I hate the fact that the breakup with the first girlfriend went so itty. Neither of us knew how to do that. And so the only way we could break up was for it to go really itty. Not restraining order itty. Just said some unforgivably mean and nasty things to each other itty. But still, no hope of ever being friends. No possibility that a Facebook "Hey, it's been 30 years, how was your life?" message would ever be returned. No calling up a mutual acquaintance and asking if I've ever been a subject of conversation over the years. Just an utter and permanent termination of a nearly 6-year relationship that everyone around us thought was forever. My only hope is that she did have a great life, with lots of friends, lovers, kids, family and awesome experiences. And that maybe she remembers that good stuff more than the bad. Not me but my wife. We were visiting LA and went to the Comedy Store because I always wanted to go and the lineup looked killer that evening. During the show my wife got up to use the restroom. When she came back she told me some punk nerdy dude tried to cut her in line to use the bathroom and she told him to get his ass to the end of the line. 5 minutes later the dude who tried to cut her came up to the stage and she pointed him out to me. It was John Mulaney lol. I wonder if he remembers a small Mexican girl telling him no cut say. TL. Dr. John Mulaney tried to cut my wife in line for the restroom. She told him to beat it bozo.